With Compton cookout.
Compton cookout.
Because of the Compton cookout.
The Compton cookout.
Once the Compton cookout.
Leave the Compton cookout.
This is the truth.
Real action! Help pay! Real action! Help pay! Real action! Help pay! Real action! Help pay! Real action!
It's gonna make me cry.
Okay, so I guess I'll just be really frank.
Turned on the channel. I don't know what it's called, but the koala channel. And just heard them bad-mouthing black students, calling us niggers.
Like with Compton cookout, it was like racism right there.
I really didn't know what to do with that information, and I had no idea what was going to be done with that information, but I quickly found out.
They had a stupid party. Why does it hurt so much?
And I mean, things are said and things are done, and I guess the way that I was raised, I guess I didn't necessarily see the oppressive side of, or the stereotypical side of certain actions or certain things that are said, and
like I recognize that it was inappropriate, it was in bad taste, like I would never personally attend anything like that, but it wasn't really anything more, I guess, significant. And I think from that point in my life it was like, well, yeah, this happened, it's bad, let's address it and kind of move on.
Like my stomach dropped. Within 1 or 2 days I was involved.
It was just a party to me. Like, it was just something that stupid people did. It was something stupid that happened.
So why are you making such a big deal?
We were on Library Walk, and we just stood directly like in the middle and was just like real pain, real action. I remember like a couple of people were like, what are they, like what are they doing? And it's like, what do you mean, what are we doing?
During that whole week with the whole demonstration, I came back crying thinking, what is happening?
And the chancellor would not, didn't want to say what it said. So Brittany took the mic from her and said, well, we found a note that said Compton lynching.
Like, this is like literally racism.
You know, everyone was shocked. The chancellor was even shocked.
And I guess that was me being ignorant in the sense.
And then I saw how big it was at the end. Students were protesting.
At first I was really confused. I was like emotionally affected by it, as I saw some of my friends and my peers were.
You know, I didn't go to any protests, I didn't go to any rallies. It was all kind of very distant from me.
I didn't know what I could do, what I should do.
I would rather not talk about it.
That was an emotional time.
I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
At the time, I was a little freshman, being this body that was ushered around from demonstration to demonstration, from this teaching to that teaching.
It was my second year. I was just super overwhelmed. Like, it was just too much. I was already burnt out. So I mainly remember being burnt out, like that whole quarter, winter and spring.
But again, it was still very distant. I think, freshman year was very much like, just get through my classes, do everything I can. It was very much like, continuing who I was as a high school student.
Aren't out there visibly because they don't see the connection.
I didn't really understand the context of the walkouts, so I was like, I'm not gonna walk out. Like, I don't see the point. Like, I'd rather be in schools, studying, learning, so I can go into like higher education. Like,
I did not feel targeted in the way that they felt targeted.
I know part of the reason why she was triggered was because she identifies as African American, and so she felt targeted. And I just remember her being so upset all the time, but I felt that the way she channeled her feelings was just really intense for me to handle at the moment. I didn't really quite understand, like, I guess for me it was, I didn't understand why she was quote unquote making a big deal out of everything.
But I think seeing the effect that it had on people that I cared a lot about, it was very difficult. And I think what was also very difficult was seeing how there's still a lot of people, like not only around me but also like in power, in UCSD, who didn't really seem to like care that like there's like a lot of students on campus who were being very affected by this, who have been affected by this for a long time.
Yeah, I wish I had known more.
I spent a lot of time just talking with people, listening to people, reading a lot. Like those are things that like I felt I could do. But I think like after seeing like the direction that like a lot of the student leaders at the time wanted to take, I was comfortable with like going with some of the things that they like were rallying for.
I think the experience to me was very distant.
And not saying that they don't care, but maybe feel hopeless or don't even know what to do, because we can't every day just protest in front of the chancellor's office. So what can we do after we protest, or besides protesting? Because protesting is not just going to do everything.
Why I need to become more socially and culturally conscious and aware about what goes on around me.
When something like this, don't just like take it passively. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't understand why people are so angry, maybe you should go like go figure it out. Go ask some more questions.
Definitely the compton cookout kind of opened my eyes. Not kind of, really opened my eyes.
Just like made me feel really heavy.
I think in retrospect, I kind of do regret not, I guess, getting more involved.
I wouldn't have done anything differently. I felt like it shaped me to who I am, and also it made me realize that I internalized racism for my own community.
I have a lot of regrets, not so much for my own actions, but for the way it was handled by the student leaders at the time. I feel like, particularly being involved in that social justice community at UCSD, I think a lot of the student leaders at that time left this legacy of a lot of like violent and competitive language.
Don't think that it has nothing to do with you, because it does. Because it does.
It does.
Like, one way or the other, like, it might not be in this time, it might be after college, but one day, I, like, almost want to guarantee you that it'll come up in your life one way or the other. Like, it'll just happen. Like, it won't be something like, oh, maybe exact reference to the compton cookout, but you'll experience something that's similar, and it's like, whoa, how do I respond? And it's still the same questions of like, what are you gonna do?
Well, I know that, like, last year, that's when I realized I never healed from it. And when I say heal from it, it was more of like the Asian American identity and not being included in that movement.
I've grown, haven't healed. And I say I haven't healed because there's things that's still occurring on campus. I can't be healed because it keeps happening, you know? So
I guess I'm still processing, but like still like looking back and processing like chunks at a time.
I'm still figuring things out.
to UC San Diego, it's like, oh, they're fine. We gave them a resource center, so that's good. In actuality, that's not good, because this is not even something that you guys wanted to do. You guys were forced to do this. Speaking UC San Diego, you guys were forced to do this because UC San Diego was about to be like the Titanic and sink under the ocean because you guys were in the hot seat, because you guys are racist, and that's just what it is.
I think I would have stayed closer to the people I cared about and the people I trusted.
You know, because if we all stuck together, like, you know, you had Job, BSU, KP, like, you know, we'll be dominant. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're running things.
I guess I feel like I should be there, and because I'm not, I feel guilty about that. But I still can't step into that space.
A lot of praise and glory was given to David and Fanon at the time, and nobody else. And I don't think that was right.
How it's very difficult to like outreach to other people at the time when you're like so like involved and like so like focused on this one like goal. But like I think it became exclusive when other people outreached and tried to become part of this movement.
The 50 or 100 people that we have doing the behind the scenes work, this would never happen. This would not be possible.
A lot of times I was at support and in the background, so because like I wasn't even too sure of like how to interpret a lot of like the I guess the relationships and actions with it between the like the student orgs, the administration, the rest of the student body, and like how everybody was feeling. The community, I think, became like a survival tactic type of thing, like, and it became very close knit but also exclusive. because of the fear of being like vulnerable and like being like I guess attacked again in that way.
It's a fairy tale. I think it's, I think it's definitely a fairy tale. This whole idea of community, I can't say I feel it.
There was a lot of the talk that was going on was very black and brown.
I was led to believe that this was a community full of support, of people really having each other's back. But I think after the Compton cookout and subsequent like negotiations and dialogues that followed, I just kind of saw this community that I was introduced to for just a moment as a first year really like fall apart and turn into a very ugly battle of oppressions and resources.
I really felt that dynamic, like them having my back, and that's the trippy part because I don't feel like that anymore.
It was an exclusive type of movement, if that makes sense. And like I think a lot of like the larger Asian community wasn't included, and a lot of times there was this perspective that they were passive and like uninvolved, when I know there were a lot, and I think a lot of times they were erased, or at least their identities were erased, and I think their work was taken for granted.
Even in the Chancellor complex where I have pictures of Compton cookout, I look at each picture to see, do I see an API face because I know APIs were there? There isn't any. And I feel like that history, or yeah, that history, I guess, is going to repeat itself again and again.
There's already been a narrative that's been told.
I think we all need to be more genuine to each other and really be more critical of what it means to be a community, what it means to have each other's back, what it means when people tell you that, you know, your struggles are the same, because oftentimes that's not really true.
I guess I became very bitter, very like afraid, I think. So like I kind of stepped out of everything after.
And I do think that because of the Compton cookout, it did give you space and kind of pushed you to kind of be cliquey.
I think I was very critical of everything that was happening, but like I didn't know how to put words to it. Like I don't know how to voice it. So I think there were a lot of things that I wasn't satisfied with, that I didn't agree with, but I still went along with because like I was still learning, I guess, like what activism was.
And we were all protesting, and I was honestly crying. I was pissed. A part of me was just like so pissed that this would even happen, but then also like a part was just really happy that people like just really came together for this, you know. And it wasn't just black people, it wasn't just blacks and Hispanics, or you know, whatever. Like it was everybody.
An event like that, it brings a lot of people together.
Everyone to come together, that was like a beautiful thing. And I think I've never in my life seen something like that beautiful. But it still annoys the hell out of me that had to be because of this event, like because of something like that. But we can't ever do this again unless something else happens like that, which is a problem in itself.
I think it's still like a very raw like spot for me. I don't know how to say it, but like a raw topic for me. So I guess my feelings about it would be that I'd rather not talk about it.
We're taking these experiences with us. It's like these events can occur again, you know, and they will, because we don't live in like a post-racial society.
And I think that's kind of like the biggest fear, is that if something like this happens again, will people know how to respond?